Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. Today, we're going to be talking about galactic DNA discovery. And Jerome Martin's going to guide us in, and y'all, you're in for a treat. The DNA activation, I actually had the privilege of a private session quite a few months back, and what I was feeling being activated towards me, the visceral sensation of this technology awakening within me and it's available to you as well, is extraordinary. So today we're going to awaken the mind, the capability, the technology for you to receive. Jerome's going to share different understandings of this and how we're experiencing and discovering more of this galactic DNA and so much more. So y'all enjoyed today's show. Be ready to be galactivated. We'll probably get into some Q&A as well. And with that, Jerome, welcome to the call.
Thank you for having me, John. I really appreciate coming back. I've worked with a lot of people from before, and I just love the feedback that I've been getting. And I want to just be able to be here to offer more because it seems like that everyone is ready for it now. And this is one of the things that has really, really, really taken me to the next level. I was already coming in contact with extraterrestrials, going on light ships and stuff. But when my DNA was activated in this way, the exact thing that we're offering here, this is what brought me to the next level. And this for me is one of the most important things that you can do when it comes into your evolution or your ascension process, because going on the light ship and working with the extraterrestrials, sure, they share gifts, abilities, they teach you about you, but this actually turns the DNA strands on. And we're going to talk about why you even want to do that here in a little bit. We're talking about what that does and what that does for your senses, because really what we're tapping into is not only the DNA strands, but turning on our clear senses, right? So turning on the clairvoyance, the ability to see the visions, the clairsentient, the claircognition, the clair audio, the clairgustant, the different senses that you have psychically. Some people say I'm an empath or this or that or the other. Well, this process really turns on the highest capacity of your ability to tap into psychic energy. And so for me, this really brought everything to the next level, because before I was perceiving certain things here and there, I would get glimpses, but this really turned on my DNA's ability to use cellular telepathy. And that is your ability to send and perceive signals from your DNA. Your DNA is a transmitter and a receiver of consciousness. So anything that happens, whether you're getting an intuitive feeling or you see a vision or you have a knowing, and anything that happens like that, your ability to perceive psychic information, that is your DNA's ability to receive that transmission. And so a lot of people, they struggle with their consciousness, or they struggle getting into a meditative state, or they struggle with, where they tap in and they don't have control over it. It happens sporadically, where it's like, oh, I get a sense here, I get a sense there, but then they can't use it effectively. And a lot of that is because the transmitters of the DNA is shut down. There's a war on consciousness, and they're constantly trying to shut it down, so we cannot tap into the psychic realms. And so this is really turning that back on. This process literally takes you from a landline, like old fashioned, it doesn't really even work, to a satellite phone, to where you're now, it's like, think about like this, your cell phone, for instance. If you have no cell signal, you're not able to download videos, you're not able to send messages, you're not able to watch movies online, not able to perceive any of these different stuff unless you have the right signal. So it's like, right now they're talking about these artificial signals. That's the 5G. Well, we're turning on the 5D, right? And so when your DNA turns on, it transmits and receives. And so the best way to describe, well, first, that's what I'm going to say about this and why it's so important. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about how this happens, right? How is it that we're able to turn the DNA on, right? And why we even want to do that. So right now, humanity collectively has about 3.5 strands of DNA active. And so of the 3.5 strands, we have 12 total, 3.5 are on. So you can see that we're really operating at a limited bandwidth. And that would be like your phone has 1 bar. And sure, maybe you can send and receive a message, or you can call, but you're not able to, download, or it might have lag. Your signal strength, your cell signal is shut down, or it's tethered. And so this process is really untethering it and really connecting it at a higher capacity. That way you have the higher faculties. Because what I've learned is that your higher psychic faculties are locked or lie dormant in your upper strands. And right now, if we're only operating 3.5, we have like the bare minimum. And when we activate them, we're getting access to those higher and higher capacities, which is amazing. And what is capable is almost unbelievable. For me, before this happened, I would be brought up in the light ships, or I'd get a little bit of information, but it was like breadcrumbs. I was being breadcrumbed, and I wasn't able to see the full picture, or the full scopus of what it is that I'm here to do. And after this happened for me the first time, this is when my clairvoyance turned on, my ability to receive images. And then now, when I'm using my telepathic abilities, I'm seeing full visions, or I'm getting a sense of knowings, where like I'll see a vision and I know what it means. So my capacity has really turned on at a high rate. And so that's why we want to do this, is really to get higher access to our own psychic abilities, because humans by nature, we are so psychic. It's like we've been tethered, or it's like we're keeping, there's like a veil that's like over us, and this really punctures and puts us through that veil. So that's what's really important. Do you think you want to ask me before I go into the next part? I know I'm sort of dumping, but I want to be able to, give you any chance for feedback.
You're definitely dumping, and I just want to kind of take it back also. It's like, how did this awaken within you? It's like, what are you in contact with? Because you are it, there's an awareness and a relationship that you have with different star systems and the beings from there. And I'd love you to just share a little bit how this woke up within you.
Okay, great. So, um, how this happened to me was somebody performed this for me. I was put in contact synchronistically through a person that I'm not going to name right now, but this a human being did this for me. When my consciousness got to a certain level that I was ready for it, it presented. And so those of you that are hearing this right now, those of you that are feeling in resonance with this, you'll know if it's your time for this, right? So your soul will tell you that you're ready for this. But what this does is, I was saying 3.5 strands are active. We have 12 strands total, and each strand is connected to something called a Stargate. And this is why this is a Stargate DNA activation. And so the lower first 3 strands are connected to the parallel Earth, or to our physical Earth, right? Because the Stargates are microcosmic and macrocosmic. So not only are they in the Earth, but they're connected to us. So they're connected to us, and then we're connected to the earth. So the energy pathways go through the earth into us, and the first 3 strands are connected to the earth. And this is why most of humanity is not in contact with their extraterrestrial heritage. They don't know about it, because that part of them isn't active yet. And those of us that are waking up have branched into that 4th or 5th strands, because that's when the extraterrestrial nature starts turning on. The higher you go in the strands of your DNA, the more connection you have to the stars and to your star families. And so that's why this is really important. So as we progress through this, we're literally reconnecting with our galactic lineage through these DNA strands. And so when they turn on, we get access to, I don't want to say past lives, because when we say past, there's only now. We look at it as past because as humans, we have it like we have a timeline that we look at it, but we start tapping into the parallel realities that we've lived, and we start downloading informations from the ethers into our physical bodies, right? So right now, your Akashic records, your personal Akashic records, that's your cellular genetic memory. If we look at ourselves like computers, it'll make more sense. If we look at it like our eyes are biological cameras and our DNA is the film, and every time that your heart beats, whatever you're looking at is being time stamped. Boom, boom, boom. All these images are being saved. And those images are saved on your cells or on your DNA. So that makes up the local drive of the computer. So everything you've experienced is here on your body, right? Local drive. And so the other lives that you've lived, your soul incarnates into all these other places. The other places and other star systems, those memories are saved somewhere else, not on the local drive. That's why we don't remember them yet. But once the DNA activates, we start getting access to the cloud system, where the DNA or where those other memories are stored. And so as these DNA strands activate, we start tapping into and remembering those past lives. And when we remember them, the DNA turns on. So for me, the reason why this is so important, when my third DNA strand activated, and I connected back to Atlantis and Lemuria, what happened in that experience was I saw a vision of me in a past life where I was like a blue fish. I wasn't like as an Atlantean, I wasn't like a hot rip guy like Aquaman with tattoos. I was like a blue fish man with flippers. And I saw myself like swimming in the ocean underwater. And just like in the movie Aquaman, how they swim faster is they use telekinesis to bend the water around themselves so they can propel themselves through the water. So I had a vision and a memory of myself swimming like this underwater. And then in the vision there was an explosion and I was trying to get away and I used telekinesis to bend the water to swim away to safety. Well, that might seem insignificant in a vision, but then when I came out of the vision, out of meditation into my waking states, now, oh yeah, my DNA remembered telekinesis. So now I can move objects across the room with my energy because when your DNA turns on, that becomes those dormant strands now become active and now you get access to those abilities that you had in other lifetimes. So as our DNA
Wait,
activates,
wait, hold on a second. You just said that you can move objects across the room with your thought.
yes, and so I can show you an example of this. I actually have it on YouTube. I can pull up if you want. I can share a screen
I think
and
we need to
show
share a
you
screen.
show you real quick.
Absolutely, because that is like what? Let me promote you to a co-panelist over here, which
Go
is
ahead. I'm gonna find it right now while you are talking about it.
and as you're finding this, again, we're talking about connecting with galactic ancestry, just for lack of a better term right now. Uh,
Mhm.
as as that happens, is there some ancestry that we would rather not connect to? It's not in our highest good. It's
Um, okay, so there is some of our a lot of people know about the reptilians, and not all of them are evil or bad. So that's one thing that I will say is that not all of the reptilians are evil, but some of our lower nature is in our DNA. In the first DNA strand, the lineage that we might perceive as not good would be that reptilian nature. But there are positive reptilians, and so there is sort of controversy over that. But from my experience, when the DNA activates, you're not going to get any of that lower nature. You're not going to get exposed to anything that is going to be harmful. If anything, you're going to heal from those things because what's really important about this whole DNA activation process is that as we're doing this, we are untangling from certain things that are constraining or restricting our consciousness. And we are actually, so we untangle from the negative things, then we activate the positive things. So this activation is very much a healing as well,
mm,
because this session, and we're going to talk about this later, it's done in parts. There's 12 DNA strands, but the first session that we're going to be doing that's associated with this show is we're doing the first 7 strands. So DNA strands 1 through 7. So those are the lower ones that we are in contact with now that affect our manifestation in this life, and then the higher ones up through we're talking about Atlantean, we're talking about Pleiadian, we're talking about Syrian, we're talking about Arcturian. So those are all in the first 7 strands. We
mm,
do those first because the first 7 strands are connected through the first 7 chakras, the first 7 stargates on the body. And the reason why we do those first is the lower ones, the first 7, are connected to the physical body, which make up the Kundalini. And the physical body holds emotional energy, emotional charges, and that's where a lot of trauma is stored. So as we are activating these stargates, we're actually healing the trauma through all of the chakras all the way up that help us heal and activate the higher nature of us, because your psychic senses and abilities are tethered through trauma, through things that have happened to us not only in this life but other lifetimes. That trauma affects us. The trauma are dense, they're dense energies that are stored on the physical body, and you can think of it like sandbags. It's like we're placing sandbags on us that are anchoring us to the ground. We need to remove those sandbags, that way we can fly. Once those sandbags are released, the Merkaba, your light ship it's able to spin, it's able to take off. The best way I can describe this is it's just like the movie Peter Pan. And anyone that has experienced the going up in the light ship with me, the first thing we do is part of this healing process because it's necessary. But in the movie Peter Pan, in the beginning, he is chasing his shadow, right? He's trying to get that shadow, and it's elusive, and he's really trying to get it. Eventually, he gets that bar of soap, right, which symbolizes doing that work, that shadow work, doing those dishes, right? He gets the shadow to stick with the bar of soap. When that happens, he gets his happy thought. And then what happens? Off to Neverland, right? He's able to fly. So part of that is symbolic of our consciousness being untethered from the restrictions and able to step into the higher dimensions of consciousness. And so this is what happens through this activation process. And so, like I said, when this happened for me, this really blasted the doors open on my consciousness and took me to other levels. Like I said, in one of my strands, I learned telekinesis, and I found the video. If you want, I can share my screen and pull it
share
up.
your screen, pull it up, and we'll go. That's gonna be amazing. And I can share also my experience with the DNA activation session with you. My opinion, my third eye was buzzing for like 3 weeks. It was so notable. It's like it was on fire consistently. It was quite an amazing experience like that. So, and y'all, we're gonna get into some Q&A a little bit later. So if you want to ask questions, raise your hands or type questions into the chat box and we'll have some fun with that. Um, all right, the video's coming up.
All right, so what I'm going to do is, all right, so we're here with the Merkaba training star for telekinesis. I'm trying to get it completely stable before I start. I'm going to start rotating it that way, so around this way.
And for those of y'all that are just listening, we're watching a video of Jerome.
Metals are really easier to move than other inorganic objects. It has to do with the conductivity. When you zoom in, you can see the energy coming off the hands and inside the Merkaba star as well. Stop, spin it the other way.
Right away, man.
Oh yeah, I see it. Working with the energy bodies, activating it.
The same way I can connect to the object is the same way I connect to another person. We quantumly entangle, and then you command it through your thoughts and through your energy fields.
Cool. Thanks for showing us that, Jerome.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, it's like, wait, we need an example. You just can't say that and let that go.
No, of course not. So this happened when my
Yeah.
third strand activated my Atlantean genetics, and I saw that vision of me swimming through the water, and then they were like, "Yeah, telekinesis." After that, I came out of that experience, and like there was just a Merkaba star hanging in the room. It was just a decoration, and my conscience was like, "Oh yeah, remember telekinesis," and then boom, I just intuitively remembered how to do that. So those are the type of capacities or the abilities that turn on when your DNA activates. You start remembering who you are from these different star systems, and depending on what you did and what you were tapped into in those lifetimes, those memories start coming back. And so as the strands activate, so do your abilities.
So let's talk about unlocking those innate gifts.
Sure. And so now I'm going to talk about a little bit about how this process works. So and I like to explain this before people engage with me, so that way they know what they're getting into, and there's no surprises. When it comes to consciousness, I believe in free will, and I believe in being transparent and thoroughly explaining how it is that we're doing this. What's the process? How does the DNA activate? How am I able to activate someone else's DNA? Like what gives me the authority to do that compared to somebody else, right? And so these are some things that I like to talk about. Well, what gave me the authority is my DNA was activated. And once your DNA is activated, you get these things called encryption keys. They are like the key that opens the door for the Stargate that allows you to bring those frequencies down. We'll get like so me being the transmitter, I'm like the radio transmitter that transmits the frequency. And so the way that you can think about this is, see yourself in your car, right? You're in your car. When you want to listen to the radio, you're flipping through the knob, right? And some stations have static, but when you get to one, right? So the same way that we are connecting to these stargates and we're receiving the transmissions is we are attuning ourselves or aligning it. When you're in your car and you hit that station, 96.3 or 100.7, that radio, that transmitter of that station can be on the other side of the country or can be anywhere else. And when you come into harmonic resonance with it, you match that Hertz frequency. Now you came into harmonic resonance, sympathetic resonance, which creates a quantum entanglement. And somewhere on the other side of the planet in a different time zone, guess what? Now you are able to receive that real time. And so this is the same way. When the DNA comes in contact with the Stargate, the transmission is received. And that's how you start having these visions or these sensory experiences. Sometimes it's colors, geometry, sometimes it's full visions of past lives. Other times it's kinesthetic experiences. I remember for me, the first time this happened, I had a kinesthetic experience where it felt like the inside of my chest was hollow, but rain was pouring down inside of me. I'm like, what kind of feeling is that? You know, but that's what was there for me. And everybody's going to have different experiences. If we had 100 people in a room, everybody will have a different experience because everyone's DNA is different and unique. But when we come in contact with the Stargates, what is there for you is what you receive. And so it works through quantum entanglement. right? I quantumly entangle to you, and because I'm a transmitter, I pull in the frequency, then it comes through me into you, so we have a shared experience. So quantum entanglement, and then cymatics. Cymatics is the science that shows, I'm sure people have seen this before, where you see the plates and they put a certain hertz frequency with the sand, and it'll go from a pile into a geometry. Then they change it, it goes into another geometry. That is showing that sound can affect matter. Everyone's seen the Dr. Masaru Emoto things where they freeze the water. They speak loving things into it, they freeze it and it's snowflakes. Or they speak hate, it turns into, things that are less harmonic. This is the same thing. When we're carrying a certain frequency, the sound, the words, the cymatics is what is changing matter. And the other principle is epigenetics. Epigenetics is the principle that your environment can have an effect on your DNA and change your DNA structure. In this case, I'm in your environment. I'm bringing through frequencies that through sound will have an effect on your DNA. And so quantum entanglement, cymatics, and epigenetics is how we are able to activate the DNA and turn this on to raise your consciousness and raise your frequency. So that's sort of the why and then the how.
Wow, there's a lot to ingest, a lot that you're going through really quickly for us, and I really appreciate that. As we start assimilating to this, what's the process of actually starting to embrace what these gifts are? Because they can seem mind-bending in lots of different ways. And I find that a lot of people have assimilated to a certain level of consciousness and attunement energetically they can hold, but there's not enough of the really taking ownership of what's been activated as well. What have you seen as part of that middle point that we're also jumping through as we become more aware of what's possible?
Okay, so the way that the assimilation process can happen, because a lot of people, you're right, they've gone to a certain point and they feel like they've reached a plateau, right? They feel like they've gotten to a certain point and then they feel like they're sort of flatlining or they're not able to reach the next level. This is one of those things that is going to take you past that plateau, or like it's like a glass ceiling. They only get so high. This will definitely shatter that glass ceiling and bring you to new heights. That's something that this will definitely do. And the assimilation process can happen differently for different people. So for me, I'm very clairvoyant and clairsentient. So as it comes through for me, I see visions and different things like that. But also people have senses of knowings, or they have a feeling, or it comes in different ways for different people. And sometimes it'll happen on the spot. During the activation, you'll see all of it happen. Other times you'll see a color pattern, or there's something will happen that you're like, I don't understand what that means, but that's because the download hasn't happened fully yet. So you can think about it like this: when you're downloading a file on a computer, whether it's a movie or something like that, you press download and then it's in the queue. It's the download bar is happening. So it's happening, but until it's fully downloaded, you can't watch that video. So sometimes during the activation, you'll sense these things are happening, but you can't really make sense of it because the download hasn't fully happened. And a lot of times afterwards, when it fully has integrated, then it'll come to you during meditation or through dream state. A lot of times people after these activations during their dreams, they're being brought by ascended masters in different places, or they're being shown different things, and it's assimilated that way. So everyone's unique, and based on their own capacity or what their purpose is, it'll sort of happen a little bit different. But if you were to ask 100 people what their experience was, they would give you a roughly or general the same type of experience.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And I love that you explain it that way. I'm curious, and we're gonna get to live Q&A, y'all, and we're gonna get into a special offer, y'all, because it's a private session for half the price plus a class. There's different ways to work with Jerome. Last season, he just like blew up. So he was booked out months in advance, and he's opened up his calendars for us as well. So actually, Chris, do me a favor and put the link in the chat box. So if y'all know that you want a session and dive in, go ahead and book now so you can book in sooner if that's what you want. But we'll go through the special offer in a little bit. I'm curious, Jerome, are there any star systems that are perhaps more active for you during this time as we're going through the Stargate, these eclipse portals, and what's coming up?
Well, so for me specifically, they're all active because my DNA strands are very active. And for me specifically, okay, there are sort of two types of people. There are people that are more like Earth seeds, and which means that they've incarnated more times on Earth, where some people have only been here on Earth, or they've been mostly on Earth and a few times in other places, but they resonate more with the Earth. And then people like myself, which feel more like star seeds, I've only incarnated on Earth 5 times, including this lifetime. So only 4 other times besides this, every other time that I've incarnated has been somewhere else. So my first time incarnating into this physical universe was in Arcturus. And so it was actually the Arcturians that came to me first and started bringing me in the light ships and started training me. So that's where I have my really strong connection is with Arcturus. But when my DNA was activated through this same process, for me, my strongest connections were in my third strand with Atlantis. I've always had strong connections with Egypt. That's in the fourth strand, but then it really jumped off in the fifth strand with the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians, I have strong connections there, and that's where I learned the medbed technology. The medbed technology comes from the fifth strand and their healing capacities and abilities. So I have really strong Pleiadian connections. And then the sixth strand, the sixth gate is Sirius, and that one I had really strong connection with the Sirians, with the whales, with the dolphins. The Sirians taught me when my DNA upgraded with the Sirians. One of the abilities that they showed me or that I use frequently now, it's like a remote viewing, but it's almost like a echolocation where your pineal gland emits like a sound pulse that goes through the walls to where I can close my eyes and I can see like what's going on in the next room, or you can almost like see through the walls. And it's like how, they use the dolphins and whales use echolocation, or bats, where they can like sort of scan the areas around them. So that's something that I learned from the Syrians was really strong. The third eye really activates with the Syrians, and then the seventh strand, which would complete the first seven strands of the activation. That Stargate is Arcturus, and so for me, my strongest connection I've had through all of them is with the Arcturians. So that is when I got really more and more access to not only the light ship technology, but my lineage or my lifetimes on Arcturus. So when that strand activated for me, I saw myself in the Arcturian, the star system, because Arcturus, it's a solar consciousness or solar body of consciousness, but the galactic Akashic records are handled by the Arcturians largely. And so when that turned on, I got greater and greater access to my ability to read the Akashic records. So it was like I could already read them very well, but then it really expanded heavily when the Arcturian portal opened. So those are how it really affected me. Everyone's different based on what their incarnations are. And some people, as with the process, the third strand will activate and they're like, nothing happened. I didn't get a download. Well, you might not have incarnated in that spot, or you might not have memories. So it's like, if you didn't have anything there, of course, there's not going to be a connection there. So as you go through, it'll be unique for everybody, but those that are very diverse genetically or with their incarnations tend to receive a lot from all of the star systems.
Amazing. So we activate this and this gets amplified in us. What's the purpose? What for?
Ascension, our expansion and our growth and our development. So humans, we're at that place right now where the Earth is raising into 5D, and so as those that are activating their DNA, they're the ones that are part of that ascension process and raising the bar and stepping humanity into those higher timelines. Those that are fear-based and they're worried about what the TVs and the news is saying, the people that are like going that certain route, those are the ones that are sort of staying locked in the lower systems. And so those that are breaking free from the matrix are those that are their DNA is activating. And whether it's through this process or something similar, because there are other ways the DNA activates, but this is like the express line. This is like if you're going through the airport, this is like clear, or going through that TSA pre-check, you're getting fast tracked down the path. And that's why if you know that this is your path, and you know that you're here to because there's a spiritual war going on. If you're on the side of the good guys and you're out there doing the light workers, all these people that are hearing this call, those are the ones that are typically drawn the most to this fast track. Because a lot of people talk about like, oh well, you could go meditate on a mountain for 40 years. Yeah, but you can get farther in 1 hour when your DNA activates. You don't have to go on a mountain and meditate for 40 years. You can in 1 hour reach higher states of consciousness. And so like I said, it's really just like taking the elevator instead of the stairs.
Do you find a lot of people that you work with in these activations? We're going to get into it. A lot of people already commenting about how amazing the last session with Jerome was that they had. Are you find that once this activates, that I would imagine that's for some people, it's a sense of freedom, the freedom of letting go of a heavy load, the sense of coming back home to themselves in a certain way and recognize that. But also, are you finding that some people are becoming very mission driven?
Yes. So very mission driven, yes, because once your DNA activates and you remember who you are, you're in alignment with that purpose again. A lot of people are sort of going through life and they don't even know why they're here. And so what I've found and what's really interesting to me is that once you know your purpose and you're fully rooted in that, that's when more and more of your abilities come online. Because something that I've found personally and that I've seen in a lot of people is that your abilities are like your toolkit or your toolbox to achieve your purpose. So if you don't know what your purpose is, good luck knowing what tools to use. If you're, it's like not having the blueprint. If you're a builder and you don't have a blueprint to the house, of course you're not going to know what tools you need or what materials because you don't even have the pathway built yet. And so, when the DNA activates and you remember who you are, that's when the purpose really turns on because most times when we reincarnate, we are like every time I incarnate, I'm doing this. The thing I'm doing right now is what I've always done. And so a lot of times when other people's DNA activates, they remember who they are and they're like, oh yeah, I remember why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing. And then once you know what you're doing, then you start getting all of the tools to help you achieve that. And so, it's part of that process.
Yeah, and I find that there's a lot of people that want to be mission driven, but we have to get to the threshold. We have to like be at a place where we can really purify, if you will. There's like a refinement process that comes through that you hold a certain level of frequency, and then from that, the stimulation to be in mission, to be from and to create from that place of refinement really starts taking a stronghold. But again, a lot of people that I feel are just kind of suffocating is like I can't find my purpose, I can't find my mission, I can't find that service. It's because that level of activation and knowing from the place of freedom rather than empowerment hasn't really awakened yet, hasn't activated. And I know that part of the DNA activation, again, what it did for my pineal gland when I had that session with you was absolutely amazing, and new ways opened up that I didn't have access to before. And I thought I had pretty damn good access, but there's more, right?
So something that someone said in the chat that I really want to address right now before we ask questions, because this has been really important in my development, is someone asked about ayahuasca and plant medicine and
And I say yes.
can that activate the DNA? And yes, it can. But what I will tell you is that plant medicine is a tool. It's something that helps dilate your consciousness so then you can access these things on your own. And something I was before I started getting into ayahuasca, I was apprehensive because when the DNA activates, you're receiving these visions like the plant medicine, but without the medicine. And I've done this DNA activation for the plant medicine shamans. And you know what they tell me? They're like, Jerome, you are the medicine because the ability to be able to bring someone through that healing process and to activate the DNA through frequency. The medicine holds a certain frequency, but you have to be there with the shaman and you have to, you go through the process. Whereas this will activate that without needing that. And so I'm not saying do this instead. I'm just saying that for me, this is something that I've learned is that the DNA can activate and you can access the same level of visions that the medicine holds without the ayahuasca. For me, I still take the ayahuasca because the thing I do for others, the ayahuasca does that for me as well and helps me heal. But I found that this is a very powerful and transformative thing at the same level and capacity, but not needing the medicine.
Yeah, and I find with ayahuasca really, I wasn't initiated into ayahuasca until after I had already been on my spiritual journey, really connecting with different realms of consciousness and dimensions as well. So when I finally did go into ceremony, there was a familiarity. I wasn't thrown off loop. I wasn't wobbled in a way because I hadn't done my personal inner deep work. And so it activated and allowed me to go deeper with the medicine and have me had a broadened perspective and the facilitation of more activation. But doing something like this before going into ceremony, I think it's exponential your capacity to have a relationship with the plants when you start here and then go to the plants rather than the other way around.
And what I will say that will back that up is the reason is when you first go into ayahuasca ceremony, if you haven't done the shadow work, the ayahuasca will take you through that first, because you have to do the dishes, and you have to clean up that shadow
Yeah.
before the initiatic part happens. And so if you are able to do that shadow work first, then when you go in, you get straight into the higher level initiatic work, and that is really important. And so someone else asked a question about preparing. Is there anything people can do to prepare for this type of work? Yes. The things that you can do to prepare yourself are all the things that Jesus taught in the Bible. Jesus says, cleanse your temple and you shall see. What
Mm,
that means is removing the heavy metals, the chemical toxins, the parasites from your body. Getting the physical body clean and ready is what really turns all of this on to the highest and highest levels.
mm,
Even when we go through the activation, things come through, but your ability to hold those frequencies and your ability to use your higher level senses is 100% reliant on how clean your body is. The more chemical toxins you have in the body, the more your senses are dulled and even shut off. For me, when I first started learning how to detox, and this is something that I teach, is that the cleaner your body is, the more sharp, crisp, and clear your senses are. So preparatory work for this would be a heavy metal detox, a chemical detox, and a parasite detox.
mm. Amazing what's coming through, Jerome. Jerome, I want to get into a special offer, and then we'll get into more conversation and Q&A as well. Y'all click on the blue link that's in the chat box. Chris or April, pop it in there one more time. Just make it super easy for everybody to find. And if you can't find it, just type in the new browser, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Jerome, and then it'll take you to that same page. And again, there's a group session, and then there's a private session with the group session if you go to package B. But Jerome, let's start first with the group session. For those that want to do a group experience with you, what's happening there?
Okay, so the group experience, this is going to be everybody together in one room. And so, at Conscious Life Expo or other places, this can be done in a large group. If there's 100 people in the room, everyone is receiving the activation individually. So even though we're all together, the frequency that comes through, you'll be having your own experience, which is beautiful. The only difference between doing it in a group or doing it one-on-one is your ability to participate with me. Because when we do it in a group, I take everyone through the same process, but you're having your own unique experience where you don't get to have the feedback loop of you talking through your experience. When you're doing it one-on-one with me, you activate, but then while you're activating, you get to narrate what you're experiencing. If you're seeing yourself going through a Stargate and geometries are opening and you're seeing a vision, you're able to speak through that with me. That way you get to really unpack the download versus it just happening and you experiencing it. And when you do it one-on-one, because it's recorded, you get to all the information that comes through. The download happens and you get to speak through it. But a lot of people know that a lot of experiences, it's like having a dream. Some of these psychic experiences, like in a dream, while you're in the dream, it's so vivid and clear. But then when you wake up, it's sort of like fleeting to where you sort of forget or don't remember all of the details. When you do it one-on-one, because it's recorded, everything you experience, you spoke out loud. So you can go back and listen to your exact experience over again. In the group session, it's still the same activation. You just don't get the intimacy that you would one-on-one. So that's really the big difference, is doing it together in a group with everybody, not getting to talk through, or being able to talk through one-on-one. So really it's just the intimacy is the only thing that's different.
Okay, so there's both packages, y'all. But if you buy package B and get the individual session, you're going to get the group session as well. So you'll kind of get, well, you won't kind of get two, you'll definitely get two sessions, which is epic. And again, again, in my session, I was feeling so much movement. I felt my chakras really igniting in different ways when you were on them. It was an experience. It was profound. And I was so impressed. Obviously, I brought you onto the show, but again, what kept unfolding and unlocking, and again, very important as we go into these sessions, that we're holding ourselves in our highest, seeing ourselves in the highest, inviting the highest that's available for us, and then being open to receive as well. How much is receptivity in these sessions a factor, Jerome?
So it goes both ways, because certain people that have done more work or have certain clear senses that are activated, everyone's different. So certain people, they're more where they feel certain things or they know certain things. Other people are more visual. Those
Mm,
of you that are more clairvoyant, you're going to be getting the visions and all of the visual aspects. Whereas those that are more where they feel certain energies, they'll have the knowings. But it's almost I have only had like less than 1% of people that, and I've been doing this for quite some time. I have less than 1% of people that are unable to tap in, and a lot of it's because they're choosing that like this isn't going to work, or they're pre-programming that they're not participating, or they're doing it like a challenge, or like this isn't going to work, and I'm going to show you it's not. Well, yeah, you chose that, so of course it's not going to work because you're not even allowing it. You're not even participating in a way.
That's not our audience. That's a
Yeah, no,
different.
and that's not you guys, but I'm just saying, like, of all
Yeah.
the people that I've done this with, there's a very small of people that just don't want to participate, and those aren't us anyways. But yeah, something that I have learned is that this process turns on more of the faculties. Some people that are just feelers, or just, they have senses, or they knowing. By the end of this, most people are seeing visions where you're seeing yourself in other places. So it really turns more of your faculties on, because just because you perceive energy one way does not mean that that's the only way that you can. That's just what's available now. And as your bandwidth opens, you get access to the higher faculties. Part of that is the healing that happens in each Stargate that unwinds and untangles all of these dense energies, that frees up your bandwidth. If you got too much stuff going on because of it's like things in the queue. If you're downloading too many things at once, it's like it's not happening. If you could just clear that queue, then the speed would happen. And that's part of where sort of clearing out all the junk, and that is the untangling. Then when we activate, we're getting in the new files. And that's the best way that I feel like I can describe that.
Makes sense. Before we get into another question, y'all, the price on the special offer, it's $111 for the group session, $250 for the group session and the private session.
Mhm.
Uh, the private session is 50% off what Jerome normally charges.
Mhm.
It's
It's actually more than that, because so one-on-one, if you were to just go through my website, it's 500. So through you, you're getting it for a fraction. And
a third of it. Yeah.
since we're doing group, and we're doing, if you're getting the group and the one-on-one, the group session will be the first 7 strands. If you're doing the one-on-one as well, then you'll be able to opt in for the second half. So when you're doing both of them, you're getting the full 12 strands if you're doing group
Wow.
and one-on-one.
Amazing. Great question, y'all. Y'all's asking what's the difference between this and the CE5 discovery sessions from the last season.
So, and that's sort of in the link, it says CE5 Galactic DNA, and it should be Stargate. But the difference is the CE5, that's when we go up in the light ship, when you're having direct cognition, or telepathic transmissions from your ET family. And those are like your guides. So that's what that is. That's going into a light ship and having telepathic communication with the guides. That was what we did in the last offer. This one is like attuning the radio stations where the Stargates turn on, where you receive the cognition from the Stargates themselves. So that's more of like remembering past lives, or getting downloads, versus a conversation. And because the conversation in the light ship, that's more of a back and forth versus just what is received. So that they're completely
Yeah.
different. And if you did one, does not mean like something else is going to happen with this. It's not going to be the same as the first one.
Right. I did both of them and they were both amazing. But this one, the one that's being offered today, I was humming. And again, the C5 was amazing also. And my connection with my guides, epic. But y'all, this one, it's just like this one, I was like, I've got to book another one, Jerome. Let's go to the next session. So it was this was my gateway into Jerome's world, if you will. And I was hooked. I was hooked. So again, I highly recommend it. The link for the special offers in the chat box. Again, I hope you all take advantage of it. JS is asking, are these DNA activations safe for everyone?
Yes, they are safe for everyone. So everyone is different, but what we're connecting to, and to your DNA strands, we're not connecting to anything that is fallen. We're actually unhooking from those things. In the first strand, the first thing that we do is clear up anything that is fear-based, because our first strand that connects into our root-based genetics. Our root-based genetics as humans is actually, we are reptilian by nature. We have a reptilian brainstem. We have a tailbone. When our skin burns, it peels off like a snake, right? And so humans by nature, we are part reptilian, but we're also a bunch of other things. We have the mammalian cortex from the dolphins, from the Syrians. We are a mix. We are hybrids of a bunch of species. And our lower nature is that reptilian. But what we're doing is we're unhooking from the negative aspects of it so we can bring it to its highest potential. This whole process is unhooking from anything that is limiting, restricting, or constraining, and then activating the highest potential of what is available in our DNA. And so there's no way to have a negative experience from this.
Wonderful. All right, let's move on, y'all. Let's go with some live questions here as we move forward. And Samantha, let's go with you, or Samantha, as you have it here. And can we get you to unmute your microphone, please? Let's see if you can unmute your microphone, Samantha. All right, Samantha, we'll come back to you in a second. Find that microphone, and I'm going to go to Linda right now. Hi, Linda. Welcome.
Hi, John. Oh, thank you, Jerome. This is really fascinating. I'm loving it. I love the fact of the telekinesis with the shape. Was that from Sperling, or is that from, or did you have that shape yourself?
So that is not from Slim Sperling. Slim Sperling, those are tensor coils. So those are copper that's twisted. This is just single strand that isn't made like that. This Merkaba star was just bought on Etsy, and it's copper, but it's not a Slim Sperling device, or is it made of any tensor coil, so it doesn't hold a certain type of frequency the same way that the tensor coils do, or his harmonic the generators that he creates.
Okay, my question is, if we would take the group call or the one-on-one, would we be more able to access the Akashic records?
Yes. So so your connection to the Akashic records, that comes through, obviously, there are different lineages, and there are record keepers and guides that give you access to that. And that's why a lot of people that teach Akashic records, like Maureen St. Germain or Debbie Solaris, a lot of times there's a lineage, there's a way to access that. But your connection with your higher self, you can also access all that information through yourself. You don't actually need to go through the Akashic records. You have access to those things through your higher self, and this process really connects you with your higher self and brings your highest self to its highest potential. And so yes, it will increase your connection speed, your intuition, your ability to receive information, because that's all that is through the higher self. Will it affect your ability to use the Akashic records? It'll increase it, but reading the Akashic records, that's more like a lineage type of thing that you learn through a certain way. So yes, it will increase your ability and your speed and your connection, but you still have to know how to read the Akashic records. They're not typically going to teach that to you unless you already know that from other lifetimes where you were a record keeper, or the Arcturian genetics. If you have a strong connection with the Akashic records, the Arcturians, a lot of people will receive that, but that's if that's there for you. So depending on what's in your DNA is what comes forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
And so just the last thing I want to say about that is, some people say, like, oh, well, when my DNA activates, will I be able to do telekinesis too? And I tell them maybe, because if you were able to do that in other lifetimes when you had those abilities, then yes. But if you didn't, what comes online specifically is what is in your DNA, or where you've incarnated, and your abilities that you previously had. I've had a small percentage, probably 10% of people that are wielding telekinesis in the same way afterwards, but it's because they had very similar incarnations as I did.
Okay,
Interesting.
thank you
All
very
right.
much. Thanks,
Thank you for
John.
coming. Good to see you. Oh, and
Good
by
to
the
see
way,
you too.
your question about my plant medicine journey, did it activate something? Did something get ignited after?
Yes, between the two
Absolutely.
worlds. Did
There
it?
was
Oh,
there
cool.
was a big shift and a deeper connection, uh, a shamanic and a galactic shamanic, and there was also a release for me where a stronger masculine presence was liberated. And everybody has their own unique experiences in that. But I know that the first time I went into the jungle and left, I went in as one person and left as another, and there was no doubt of that. Yeah.
Cool.
To
Well,
answer that
thank you
question.
for answering that.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Jerome.
You're welcome. Thank you, Linda, for your questions.
Samantha, let's see if we can get you on the call now.
Yeah, I was having trouble on my phone, so I got to
Oh,
my
please.
computer. Sorry about that. So my question, I actually did sign up and buy the previous package, and you were talking about earlier, the being prepared and levels of preparation and so forth. One of my potential concerns, one of my questions is that, I do have a chronic illness, and so I am not living from a state of full vitality. And would that impact my ability to maximize this experience?
So if your chronic illness is due to heavy metal poisoning or any type of chemical thing, I could see that being something limiting. But if it's not, then I don't think so, because I've had people that have had different illnesses that have done this and have had, their consciousness elevated, and the illness isn't something that hindered that. So I have done this with people of all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different things that they've gone through. I've done this with people that are elderly. I did this for a woman that was 94 years old before, and she had
Mm.
the same type of experience as somebody at my age or someone in another age range. So age, and because some people say like, oh well, the different generations, we have like some people that were talking about like crystal or indigo or rainbow because of the age groups of consciousness. I've had people that were much older than myself that had just as phenomenal experiences as I had, and so I don't think that the age or your health is going to be too much of a hindrance, unless that the illness is contributed to things like heavy metals, chemical toxins, parasites, because those things would block your consciousness as well, the same way that they would affect your health.
Okay. Well, I have obviously cleared battles and everything else in the past, and then I have some herb cleanse stuff that I was planning to use before my session.
And I do have certain things that I recommend on my website. In my resources tab, there are things that I recommend for cleansing yourself or preparing yourself. So if you sort of don't know what that looks like, there's some stuff on there that can help as well. So if you are trying to prepare yourself for it, those things would definitely help. And I do want to let you know, if you already have either previously done the offer with me going in the light ship, or you have it scheduled for in the future, if you were to do this before, this would greatly expand what you receive when you're on the light ship. The more active your DNA is, the stronger the transmissions that come through are. So doing this before or after isn't going to affect one of them, because they are two different things altogether, and so they overlap, or they build together. And it doesn't matter if you were to do one before or after. So I want you guys to know that if I did one or the other in either order, isn't going to affect one or the other. If you did it before, you might receive more because you're like a step farther, but if you didn't, you're still going to receive what is meant for you.
Great. Thank you for all that.
You're welcome.
Samantha, what's coming up really strongly for me is that nature for you is so important.
Oh,
And
yes.
clearing, very important. And if you can get in water, bodies of water, river, lake, wherever you are, it's like that just wants to just hold you and nurture you, and just in the be in prayer with water when you go out. Like really ask permission before you go in, ask for to be supported, like be in ceremony with that water and
Okay.
inform it, build a relationship. We're so accustomed to jumping in the ocean and going in, and it's wonderful and we're beautifully received. And for the healing that you're looking for, to going there intentional, and in reverence to what's available. All this is going to be an amplification of your consciousness in lots of different ways, and it'll prepare you obviously for the sessions as well.
Well, thank you for that. I live by the ocean, and so this is swimming season here.
Beautiful.
But
Enjoy.
when you were talking about nature, I do landscape design, and so I work with plants all the time. Well, half the year. But is there something just like with the ocean? Is there something?
Be more presence. We can be very quick in doing our things, like a small ceremony before you plan something, just a gratitude or an offering that where you form a connection with the elementals as you go forward. So allow that, that's going to be part of your expansion more so. And I get that you already do it, that you carried it just kind of naturally already. But for me, what I feel is like it wants to be activated even more. There's more that you can give before you receive, like showing up in reverence and in ceremony to it. And it'll help to support your light body. It'll help to support wherever there's a wobble or distortion, and help to the purification and awareness of what's coming through. Because sometimes we want to clear the body, but the body's saying, yeah, we want to clear also, but we want you to receive this as well. So your ability to have communication with all of that, and to be in a state of receptivity and listening is going to be powerful.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so much for that, both of you.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Hey,
Welcome.
Lauren Miller, welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for calling on me. Hi, Jerome. Hi. So quite a lot of questions that have already been asked about the preparation were some of what I was saying, was what some of what I wanted to bring. But since I signed up on your lightship one, I haven't done it yet. I've gone into a big process of actually preparing the home. Like so much was broken, like physically and metaphorically as well. And then gone into like Dr. Morse style kind of fruitarian cleanse and started in that. But with that whole thing has been like a shift almost in vibration. So I'm no longer speaking light language. I'm not feeling quite as connected, etc. So it's like I needed to go down again. But now coming back up to where you're probably going to take us, I'm wondering if it isn't too much of a jump. You know, I don't know if I'm ready.
It's not. And what I will tell you is the Dr. Morris cleanses with the fruitarian thing. So I go back and forth. When I'm cleansing, I'll do the fruitarian thing with the herbs, but then for some reason I have O positive blood, so I eat with my blood types, and so I'm a meat eater, and I get a lot of vitality from almost more of a carnivore diet most times. But I do recommend when it comes to cleansing, I'm actually certified by Dr. Robert Morse as a detox specialist, so that's what I recommend to clean your body. So on my resources, I have some of that stuff, but you're doing exactly what you want to do. That's the best way from my experience to clean the body out is through his methods. He's very tapped in and he knows what he's talking about, and you're in the right spot if that's what you're doing for preparation.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's interesting how what you think maybe would come out of these detoxes and cleanses, it hasn't actually been a new spiritual practice or better connection, or it's like back to grassroots. So I just was wondering, you know, I'm feeling quite disconnected actually at the moment.
It's the ebb and the flow, right? So it might not seem like you're getting farther, but just like the tides come in and they go out, you might feel like you're farther away, but that's preparing you for the wave to come back in and crash again. And so you might feel like you're not connecting the way that you want to, but it's getting ready for that. And so you're actually doing the exact right thing. And there's times for me when I'm receiving, and then other times when I'm giving, where it seems like, you know, I haven't received as much as I had before. But once again, the ebb and the flow, there's seasons and cycles of things. And if you're in one of them, just be present with that process and just continue to do that work, because it's preparing you for that next thing. And a lot of times we reach those plateaus where we can't get any farther because we're in that process. And so, you know, take advantage of it. Take advantage of not receiving for a little while you're going through that process, because when that's happening, it's getting ready for the next crash or the next wave to happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I love your question about not receiving, the feeling that it's more applicable kind of to like this realm, if we'll call it that. Because I've been going through that as well. It felt like I was getting a lot of information connected to new guides. So much was streaming through, then it just like paused. And I'm very much grounded, doing things in the body, doing linear organizational admin things, or, you know, those type of things as well. Another things that happens with that I want to share, we're also meant to put into this world, this creation, what we've received. And so the opportunity for you to flex your muscle, to play with those energies take place when we can ground them into our body. That's truly where heaven is meeting earth, and heaven is the expression where those have the nexus point and meet, and we as creators do something with that new information. So what can you do with what you've received? What are you amplifying? What can you surrender to in your knowing rather than us constantly being in doubt? But if I'm not receiving, there's something wrong. If someone's not guiding me, then I must be lost. If something's coming up, then I'm going backwards and I'm not safe again. And it's quite the opposite. We're acclimated, we're attuning, we're able to take action because we've had soul recovery that's come in. We're remembering more of who we are. It's like, all right, what am I going to do with, what am I going to choose now? Now that I'm more empowered, now that I know myself more, now that I'm more capable and aware of the ripples of my creation that affect not only myself, but others. And then what kind of world do I want to create for myself, which comes a reflection of what I create in the world. And so it's an amazing opportunity to really gather strength and know what we can do with it.
Thank you. Thank you for adding
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Take advantage of it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, Jerome, let's continue. Sonia, welcome to the call.
Hi, Sonia.
Y'all find those unmute buttons. Know them when you come on. All right, Sonia, as you're finding that, yeah, you're not coming on, Sonia. I'm sorry, love. It's if you find it, we'll come in a second. Keep looking. It's all right. Jerome, is there anything that is coming through your awareness about the wave that we're riding now and where it's heading?
So right now, in between Lionsgate portals and super blue moons and Mercury retrograde, a lot of people are struggling with the energies that are coming through right now, and they're sort of, I'm getting lots of clients saying like, "What is going on? I'm having different things happen, all this different stuff." A lot of it is, there are external forces that are, I don't say working against us, but they're affecting us in ways that we might not realize that's sort of what's going on. And so just realize that if you are going through a difficult time right now, that there are planetary bodies at play. There are different, energy portals that are, pulling and pushing energies through that can be affecting you. So if you are struggling right now, that just be aware sometimes of the astrology or the cycles that are happening. That's something that everyone should sort of, if you're making major life decisions, to try to make sure that we are not making big decisions during these times right now until the cycles end.
Yeah, and I'm feeling it too, Linda. Linda says, I feel so tired. It feels like time's compressed, like everything has come in and my 24 hours like only seem like I have 5 hours in it. And I've got to hurry, hurry, hurry. And it's busy, busy, busy. And it's like it's nonstop until I just say I'm done. I'm tapped out for the day. But then I have energy for the next day and it starts all over again. So there's like a speeding up and a compression of time that I've been experiencing. Yeah, curious what your experience of that is, Jerome, because I know you're traveling the world and doing lots of different things also.
So I've been, just like a lot of people, been struggling with the energies of the retrograde. Usually hasn't affected me, but I think so since the Lionsgate portal, something's sort of been happening with me where I've been more susceptible to these energies, and they've sort of been affecting me as well. And so I've been trying not to, like I said, the same advice that I'm giving, I'm trying to follow. I haven't been making any life-altering decisions during these times as well, and sort of just riding the wave and sort of just like letting things sort of settle down before I do stuff like that, because, just like everybody else, I'm feeling it too.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we all get to ride these, but we're also compressing and expanding at the same time. It's like this effect of giving birth truly. And there's
And
so
that's
much.
like the ebb and the flow, right? It's, it's coming in and going out and sort of going back and forth.
And what I see in it also, again, it's different people have different perspectives depending on what's been activated within them. But I really see such an amazing opportunity that we're stepping into and a regeneration of consciousness and what's possible within all of us. It's not just, it doesn't feel like it's just a gradual progression. It feels like we're going to leapfrog into something that we haven't accessed before.
I think so as well, and it seems like that as you're talking about time speeding up. It seems like it's getting faster and faster, and our ability to receive is more and more. Now things like this seems like they happen that much faster. Even things are manifesting. It seems like it takes less energy into a thing to get a bigger result, and it just seems like. And once again, for me, I feel like once the strands are on, your bandwidth is faster. So when you're putting things out into the universe, it's hearing it and responding quicker because of the connection speed. And so, there's a lot of things that come into play with it, but I do think that it is speeding up. And for a lot of us, it's because of our ascension process is speeding up.
Do you ever find that when you're working with someone or in your personal experience that as you're working through these activations and you're going through the system that something seems to be clogged up and it's just really difficult to get through?
There are sometimes things like that are like it does happen, or certain strands, they seem like there's a lot more trauma in them. And so certain gates, especially in the first seven, the star gates aren't the same as the chakras. The chakras are like the energy pathways that the energy goes through. It's like the slide that it goes down to go from you to the Stargate. But sometimes that those Stargates, certain ones have more trauma in them. So sometimes the release is bigger or less depending on how each person's like a snowflake. Everyone's different, but yeah, sometimes there's more trauma in certain people than others. Certain people have endured a lot more in their childhoods. Certain people have gone through certain traumas, and so it can be different for each person. But I haven't had many times where we haven't been able to get through it. Sometimes it takes longer, and these sessions, they're an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes they're longer because certain people's when you go one-on-one, sometimes they're longer because there's a lot more. When you have that feedback loop, we go until it's done. So sometimes if it keeps going, that's just what it is. And so I have had ones that just seem like they don't stop unpacking just because that's what's there in the DNA. Once we start going through it, just whatever flows through is what we have to process.
Amazing. For the sessions, Chris or April, if one of y'all will put the link in the chat box again for the special offer again, make it easy for everybody to access and get on the calendar. Sonia, we're going to get to you in a second, but I'm curious, has anything ever shown up that just truly surprised you in these sessions or connecting with galactic beings with someone that's like, whoa, I've never seen that. This is like
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
wobbling
So,
in. Yeah.
at first, when this first started doing this, I've been doing this for several years now. When I first started doing it, every time it was so shocking because, other people's experiences, because I experienced what I experienced when my DNA activated, and when other people's activates, it's completely different than mine. So when it first started happening, I was like, my jaw was dropped. I'd be floored. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm learning all this different stuff. But now I'm sort of used to it. I don't want to say I'm numb to it, but like, I feel like I've seen so much that nothing surprises me these days. Or when there's something that's just like, wow, I'm not that surprised. But I have recently, not through the DNA activating, but up on the light ship recently. I'm not going to say the name of the galactic being that came through, but someone had a full-on like Kundalini experience, a Kundalini awakening, where the energy was so powerful that it kept knocking off our Zoom call. It was affecting the electromagnetics. It kept shutting down the Zoom link. The audio, like all these things were happening. That was one of the most, what I would consider shocking, to where the energy is affecting the electronics between us. That was sort
Yeah.
of.
And what was surprising in my session, where we went up to the spaceship also, and the beings that were coming through, with the last group of beings, the third round that we went into, that Yeshua actually showed up as a galactic being. And
Yeah,
that's not someone I'd consider as a galactic being, right?
yeah, so something that happens, believe it or not, 8 or 9 times out of 10, when we go up in the light ships, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, sometimes Saint Germain or Kuan Yin, or these other ascended masters, or even angels or elementals, these other beings show up because they are of, what is considered the family of light, or they're considered, higher dimensional beings, because it's not only galactic. Because when we think about galactic, we think of like geolocation, like, it's a different, compared to the Earth, it's somewhere else far away. But as we're talking about galactic, we're also talking about the densities and the layers of consciousness. These higher stargates are in a higher dimension. You know, the fourth gate is in the fourth dimension. The fifth gate, even though it's Pleiades, it's in the fifth dimension. The sixth is in the sixth, seventh, and so on. And so as you go higher, as you go on these light ships, some of these beings, they are very high dimensional, and we might not associate them with the stars, but they are very galactic in nature. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, Yeshua and Mary are up there.
Again, totally surprised me. It's like, what are you doing here? It's like, okay, but you're here. And the permission, you know. But when y'all do these sessions, I would recommend just give yourself permission that whatever's coming through, that you're not making it up. Like and allow your body to feel it's really quite extraordinary. Again, I can't recommend enough, and I'm excited for y'all to try it out.
The reason why that's what you just said is so important is because when we're having these experiences, we are shifting from duality to unity consciousness. And what that means is we're shifting from the brain into the heart. And we are shifting our brain waves from alpha and beta into theta and gamma. That's where these waves of information come through. And during these experiences, when you're connecting with these ETs or these galactic beings and the transmission is coming through, when you start second guessing or you start thinking, am I making this up? When you're analyzing with your brain and you're shifting yourself from your heart back into that duality. And so you're shutting down that transmission process. So what you're saying is so important, because the information that comes through is so vast and so specific. There's no way you'd be able to make that up on the spot. Like there's no, like what comes through it, there's no way for you to actually, come up with something like that.
And expect to receive a vision that's even bigger than you might anticipate. Then you might be asking for something, and surrender that a new version that's activated for the higher frequency for your benefit has the possibility of showing up. So again, let the mind go, let the heart open, and just enjoy these sessions. Let it work you. You don't have to work it, right? Which is amazing. Sonia, you're on the call. Let's see if we can get your microphone working now.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi, John. Hi, Jerome. In between that, sorry about that, I'm overseas.
Great, yeah.
And so I just changed over to computer. I had so many questions, I just don't know which one to go with. Maybe I'll just go with an experience that I had before my awakening. So it was years ago, where I had 3 days of being, going around, knowing I was from another, I had an incarnation in another planet. It was as if I was possessed by that other personal aspect of me, and I was just so joyful and telepathic, and this experience lasted three days. Can you speak of that, what that was about? Because I just if you're able to tap into that at all or not.
Yes. So something that happens, and what you're talking about is a natural progression. So whether it happens one-on-one where you're tapping into, another being that might seem like an ascended master or might seem like a guide, that is very similar to when we go on the light ship. When we go on the light ship, we're coming in contact with a group of them, right? A group of individual beings. But typically what happens is after the experience where we make that connection, those beings are then there with you. And that's something that I teach after we go on the light ship. Afterwards, we show you how to go back into your heart space and continue to work with them, because as they make themselves present in your waking state, as you work with them, you're integrating that part of yourself. And because these guides, they might seem separate, but they are very much a part of yourself. I remember I was saying about your soul incarnating into a bunch of different timelines. Those other versions of you are another incarnation that you've lived in what we would consider a past life, but really it's happening simultaneously. And so as you come in contact with them, it's like you took that station and now it's time to listen, and you're going to listen to that program until it's done. And so when we connect with these guides in the light ship afterwards, you might get a small part of it or an understanding, but the important thing is to continue that work with them, to go back into that heart space, to connect with them, and to finish that download. Watch that program. If going in the light ship was the first 15 minutes of a movie, you continue watching that movie, you want to know what the ending is like. And so with that, by going back and working with these guides, you continue to receive and unpack that transmission, and those guides will be with you in your heart space until you assimilate them. Whatever they have to give you as a download or as a gift or as an ability, as you assimilate it, eventually they will vanish or they won't be there anymore because you've learned everything that they have for you to receive. And once you assimilate them, that is now fully integrated within yourself, and more room has opened up for another guide or another teacher to step in to teach you another part of your progression. So each being is teaching you a piece of something. And I like to talk about like a Lego house. You might get a bunch of pieces or blocks, and by themselves, it's just a block. But as you stack those blocks, eventually they build into a mansion or a light ship, and they all stack, and it creates a bigger something. And so I implore you to, when this happens, to work with that guide fully until they end up not showing up anymore, because that's when you know that you've really finished that work with them.
Sonia, thank you
Thank-
so much. It's
thank
great
you.
to have you on. Yeah. Great question and great response, Jerome.
Thank you.
Jerome, I am having this impulse of like light language wanting to come through my throat, and then I'm not going to do it, but I know this is for me. You get into light language as well, do you not?
I do. Yeah,
It's
so light language is a beautiful thing, and people have heard it in different ways, shapes, and forms. But for me, light language turned on for me during a DNA activation. It was in it was for the Sirius. So my sixth DNA strand that's connected to the pineal gland, when that activated fully, is when light language turned on for me. And so light language does different things based on your intention. Light language at its core, whether it's spoken as a transmission or whether you are seeing and receiving them as glyphs or symbols or images, or if you are tracing them or drawing them in the air, they are a carrier signal of consciousness. And what that means is that when I'm speaking the light language, the intention that is inside of it is like the data. The light language itself is the signal. So what you're speaking, if you don't have an intention that is wrapped up and contained within that language, it's not going to have the same effect. So for example, I use light language as a way to quantumly entangle. If you had a session with me, when I connect to you, I use light language. My sound instantly will connect me to you. Or if I'm downloading a program, I will download that program into myself. Then when I speak it, it's an instant transference of those codes. I can use light language as a file share system. I can download whole information systems from me into you by pulling up that program like a program file. And then the light language is like a Wi-Fi transfer. It's like downloading it from the cloud. So I can download it in, and you speak it and it transmits. So depending on how or what you're using it for, it can differ. When I first started tapping the light language, I had no idea what was happening. I would wake up at like 3 a.m, just speaking all this crazy light language, and each time I would do it, it would be like a different dialect or from a different language or a whole different thing. And I didn't know what it was. But I learned later that it didn't matter what it was, because I was receiving that transmission. That was my time to receive. So it was coming through that reception. Then when I had it, it started to unpack and download. Then I started being able to use it for all these different things. And so light language, is very much a tool of your consciousness for you to heal, connect, clear, and awaken the DNA.
Yeah, amazing. But one of my first, I had two experiences of light language over 15 years ago, and one was just energy was coming up and I couldn't contain it, and it just had to like pour out, and that was amazing. And that was just me looking in the mirror, just like getting to know myself and activating myself, if you will. The second time, I didn't know it because I was kind of sleepwalking, and my partner, my girlfriend at the time, um, the next morning, she's like, "Do you know that you set up and you were speaking this Arabic language and you shared a story for about 15 to 20 minutes with such grace and elegance and kingly energy? And it was so articulate." And she goes, "I could make some of it out, but it was like Arabic, Asian. It's like it wasn't from here, but it was from here the same way." It was absolutely amazing. Y'all, it's in us and it's activating even more.
You remember, John, when I was talking about how this works, how it's quantum entanglement and how it is cymatics and how it is epigenetics? light language is that same thing. A transmission is coming through you, through your third eye, then you're able to vocalize it. And when you're speaking, the light language that's coming out is a cymatic carrier signal. And because of the codes that are in that signal, then it is affecting either you or the other people that you're speaking it to. And that sound is then epigenetically changing their DNA, whether it's healing them, clearing them. When you're speaking it for yourself, guess what? That transmission is coming through you. Then when you're speaking it, it's affecting your cells, your DNA. And so you're upgrading yourself, that you're receiving that signal, and your sound is what's then upgrading your own DNA. And so it's the same principle as these DNA activations. And sometimes people, they get the downloads and they activate themselves through the same process.
And that's been happening to me almost daily over the last 3 months, where I go into meditation and it's just coming through and it's receiving. It's not necessarily for anybody else at the moment. We'll see how it evolves. I'm not attached, but I'm also curious and excited, right? Because it's very awe-inspiring. And again, it's flow with
That's
it,
what happens.
fluidity. Yeah.
Your DNA, remember I said transmitters and receivers of consciousness. Once those transmitters are on and the receivers are on, it just happens. And like you said, just being receptive to it and letting it come, that's how we do it. And you'll continue to upgrade yourself. Once your DNA is active, it's like a snowball that keeps rolling. It just keeps coming through. And whatever it is for you, just be open to it and just allow. Don't be afraid of it. Just be in that flow state.
Jerome, I'm smiling. I'm going to ask you for a favor in a second. Chris, April, put the link for the special offer in the chat box, please. There it is, y'all. Get the session. Get the group session, get the group and the private together as one. There's 2 payments on all of it. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know why I'm smiling. I'm giddy about this, but is there a download packet that you want to that can come through you for us before we end the call today?
Yeah, so I'm going to download some light codes for a clearing that can help prepare you for this, that will remove any densities that might be holding you back, or anything that might be in your way of receiving this transmission. Sometimes people have blockages with poverty or money, or can't afford it. They would love to participate, but they can't. And sometimes there are things set up that can block us for that. So I'm going to download the light codes right now that will start clearing that up for you. That way you can participate, because some people are, they need that clearing because this work will affect them so much better. So I'm going to download those codes in 3, 2, 1. Sia kanana ea shititia sua kanana ea shi sititia kia sua shanana ea ki su tua shanana ea ki ea su tu u shanana ua ka ea. Next set is flowing in. Ia sut ua kin ni ia shatata ea suku ua tana ua shi iki ia se ea sut una na ua shat iki ia satata ea su nunu u shu ua sata ea ki ia. Just open your heart, and they're already coming through. So just breathe in and just receive. And that's all. That made me sweat. I got all hot over here from that. Do we have any other questions from anybody?
Yeah, it's a question from Samantha. Thank you for writing in, and I've got a partial answer to that. But Samantha's is saying that she was recently told that she's disconnected from her body, and she may have been that for years. And how might that affect her session experience?
Well, being disconnected from our bodies, so something I can tell you is that for the majority of my life, I've felt disconnected from my body as well. And a part of that has come through trauma. And when you were saying that we spend some parts of our energy receiving downloads, and spiritual other parts seem more physical, that's something that had to happen for me. I was so disconnected from my body due to trauma and injury that I was focusing on the spiritual, and that was necessary. But after those downloads, reconnecting to your body, that's been super important for me. For me, my next level of advancement is after I heal my physical body. I was hit by a car going 50 miles an hour, and I have just sort of not I didn't understand that I would be able to heal myself. And so for me, reconnecting with your body through whatever means that is for you, for me, it's physical healing, it's chiropractic work, it's getting my body in alignment, getting my nervous system back online fully. That for me is how I've been reconnecting. So depending on how you're disconnected from your body, you have to find that out first. And there are lots of ways that you can do that. But being present with yourself, being in nature, like you said before, connecting with the ocean, with the earth, when we're talking about working with plants, going outside, being barefoot, connecting with the earth, grounding yourself, going by trees, not just being in nature, but connecting with them energetically. They are alive as well. Go lay under a tree or sit underneath it. Breathe into it, into your heart. Breathe down. Grow those etheric roots down. Merge with those trees. Think of the movie Avatar. In the movie Avatar, when they take that tail from their hair and they touch it to the tree and they entangle and they connect, merge, quantumly entangle to these things. That is how you can reconnect to your body, the earth, microcosmic, macrocosmically, the earth is our body. And so connect with the earth, connect with yourself, go within, do those things, connect with your cells, ask your body, ask your higher self, why am I disconnected? Show me how to reconnect. Connecting with your higher self and learning that is one of the best ways you can get those answers for yourself.
Beautiful, Jerome. I love that. And again, very shamanically as well and ceremoniously. We want to commune with nature. And again, remember what the word communion means. It's that you're not just there to take. It's like enter first with an offering, with yourself, and allow that to be amplified because you have to be connected to your body and to your energetic field as you give. It's just
So something you just said is so beautiful is that a lot of people when they think about ceremony or ritual or even the idea of sacrifice on an altar. Well, did you know when you're ascending, really you're sacrificing yourself and not in the way that people think. You're sacrificing the old, like it's the old
yeah.
version of you. You're killing that old version of yourself so the new version of yourself can be born. It's not the same way that people think of, but you're letting go of that old self. That way you can evolve and grow. You're sacrificing, the part of you that is meant to be let go, the part of you that's meant to, be finished. That way we can take on that new version of self. And so sometimes we have to sacrifice the old to step into the new.
Great question, Samantha. Thank you so much. Was there a third code that was coming in, Jerome?
Let me ask.
I wasn't sure if that was all, if there was another
No,
one.
it was two. There's not a
Okay.
third one for that.
Okay. Wow. Well, y'all, this has been amazing. The link for the special offer before we say goodbye, it's in the chat box. If you haven't clicked it open yet, or if you're thinking about the session, click it, keep a tab open, get to it a little bit later this evening, tomorrow morning. But again, I cannot recommend it enough. So amazing. Jerome, thank you so much. It's been so fun. I love the energy and this awareness that you bring in these galactics and activating our DNA in that way. And it's refreshing to have you here on BTO. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you so much. And I loved it. It was so synchronistic. The number of the episode when it was 033, I was like, oh, I know I'm in the right space at the right time. And like I said, thank you for having me. I love being here. I love connecting with all of you. I love these questions because a lot of times, if you don't ask these certain questions, we don't get stimulated in certain ways. So I appreciate all the amazing questions from everybody. And thank you once again having me. Thank you, April. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody involved in this.
Thank you, brother. Enjoy your time in the Mexican Riviera. Please say hello to the pyramids for me, whatever you're activating.
I'll be there.
Thank you in advance. And send those codes over etherically for all of us to benefit as well. Enjoy your travels.
Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Everybody,
have a great night.
thank you for being here. I love you guys, and I'll look forward to seeing y'all on the next call.